When Meri and I got married, Meri was clingy. She was all over me. She was always all over me.
Just you brought up things I've said and things that I've done.
Right. She's saying
that feels like blame.
Yeah, it is kind of weird to say 32 because, like, yeah, I've been married for 32 years. Like, have I been a married couple with Kody for 32 years? No.
Kody Brown's midnight call to Meri Brown has fans in total shock because it's not just any old phone call. It's a desperate, late-night confession that he's still grieving the end of their marriage, even after everything he's put her through. This is the same man who spent years calling Meri untrustworthy, evil, and dangerous on national TV, painting her as the villain in their twisted family saga. And now, out of nowhere, he's flipping the script and claiming heartbreak. If you're wondering how that could possibly make sense, you're not alone.
But it's been 32 years that I stay committed. Maybe I should have been committed.
Insiders say this midnight call is exactly what Meri's been dealing with for decades. Kody's manipulative back and forth that keeps her emotionally stuck in his orbit. He's trashed her name in front of millions, blamed her for the family's unraveling, and made it seem like she's the one who can't let go. But this midnight grief confession proves he's the one who can't let her slip away. And Meri? She's done playing nice, because the woman who used to quietly take his cruelty is now the same one who's telling him to keep his late-night grief to himself. And fans are absolutely living for her brutal comeback. It's such a stunning reversal that fans can't stop buzzing about it.
I can see where they're going with this. And they're both really calm. And that's scaring me.
Imagine being publicly humiliated for years, having your name dragged through the mud, your loyalty twisted into something shameful, and then getting a call from the man who did it all, claiming he's grieving what he lost. Like, really, Kody? You want sympathy now? Meri's been the one carrying the weight of this toxic relationship for decades, and he's only calling her because he can't handle the silence. Sources say Meri told Suki on the tell-all that this call happened just weeks before filming. Like, he couldn't stand the idea of her moving on without him. It's giving desperate ex-boyfriend energy, and fans are here for it. And let's be real, this is classic Kody. He's always needed someone to validate him, someone to worship him, someone to be his personal cheerleader. Now that Meri's gone, he's not getting that from Robyn or anyone else.
You know how he's been acting and things that he's been saying for years, and we haven't had a relationship for a long time. Like, ever since we moved to Flagstaff, I mean, when we moved there, he was like, oh, this will be a great time for a new beginning.
So what does he do? He reaches out to the one woman who always gave him that unwavering support, hoping she'll pick up the phone and play his emotional games all over again. But Meri isn't that woman anymore. She's done. She's stronger. And this midnight grief call, it's the final straw in a saga that's been brewing for decades. Fans say they're proud of her. Proud she didn't fall for it this time, and even prouder that she's finally living her truth. And honestly, who could blame her? Kody's twisted double standard has always been a sore spot for Sister Wives fans, and this midnight call just made it worse. Remember, this is the same man who once stood in front of the camera saying he never loved Meri. He called her manipulative and scary, said she betrayed him by seeking companionship online years ago, and used that as an excuse to keep her locked out of his heart. But now, out of nowhere, he's picking up the phone and telling her he's still grieving? The nerve. And you can bet fans are rolling their eyes hard at that one. It's like Kody's forgotten everything he's ever said about Meri, or maybe he's hoping she'll forget. But Meri's not the same woman she was when this show started, and she's not about to let him rewrite history.
He's gonna be so mad at me in this interview. I'm kind of not giving a flying rat's ass.
Sources say Meri shut him down hard during that call. She told him she wasn't carrying his grief anymore. She didn't want to hear his regrets or his sad little apologies. And for anyone who's ever been caught in a manipulative cycle like that, it's a moment of triumph. Because when you've been the one holding on for so long, when you've spent years believing you were the problem, finally realizing it was never about you is like flipping on a light in the dark. Meri's finally seeing Kody for who he is, and she's not interested in playing his games anymore. And fans, oh, they're living for it. Social media is lighting up with comments like, she's finally free, and Meri's comeback is exactly what we needed. Because it's not just about Kody and Meri anymore, it's about every woman who's ever been made to feel like she was the problem. Every person who's ever been blamed for someone else's failures. And Meri standing up for herself, it's giving everyone watching a little bit of hope that they can do the same. So while Kody might be stuck in his feelings, still trying to figure out how he can be both the villain and the victim. Meri's out here living her life, refusing to carry his grief any longer. And that's exactly what makes this midnight call so fascinating, because it's not just the end of a chapter for them, it's the start of a brand new story for Meri, and something tells me she's just getting started. But let's rewind for a second, because this midnight call didn't happen in a vacuum. This isn't just some random sentimental moment where Kody was suddenly struck by the weight of losing Meri. No, this was another round in the twisted game he's been playing for decades. Fans have seen this pattern before. Kody says something cruel, or cuts Meri off entirely, only to come crawling back when he realizes she's finally slipping away. It's classic manipulation, and Meri's had enough of it. She even told Suki in the tell-all that this phone call was just weeks before the cameras started rolling, as if Kody couldn't stand the idea of Meri moving on without him. The timing alone is enough to make you raise an eyebrow. Meri had already started to find herself, stepping away from the wreckage of that marriage and focusing on her own growth. She was no longer the desperate wife begging for Kody's scraps of affection. So what does he do? He calls her up in the middle of the night to tell her he's grieving, but fans know exactly what that really means. It's Kody's last-ditch attempt to get her back under his control. He's trying to remind her of the good times, to blur the edges of all the pain he's caused. He wants to see if he still has that power over her heart. And Meri? She didn't fall for it this time. She's learned the hard way that Kody's grief isn't about love, it's about control. It's about making sure she never truly moves on, never truly believes she deserves better. But Meri's not that woman anymore. She's stronger now, and she's not about to let his midnight confessions pull her back into that toxic mess. For fans who've been watching this drama play out for years, Meri's refusal to play along is everything. They're calling it her most powerful moment yet, because it's not just about telling Kody no. It's about finally choosing herself after decades of being told she wasn't enough. And if Kody thought this midnight call would be his way back into her heart, he seriously misjudged the woman Meri has become. Because she's not grieving the past anymore. She's moving forward, and she's not taking him with her. The truth is, Kody's midnight grief call wasn't just a moment of confusion or even a moment of heartbreak. It was a calculated move straight out of the narcissist's playbook. For years, fans have watched Kody cycle through his wives like chess pieces on a board, always keeping them just close enough to fuel his ego, but never close enough to feel safe. And when the spotlight faded and he realized he'd lost Meri for good, he did what manipulators always do. He tried to pull her back in with just enough emotion to crack her resolve. He didn't care about the pain he'd caused or the years she spent begging for crumbs of affection. He only cared that his control over her was slipping away. But this time, Meri wasn't the same vulnerable woman she once was. She saw Kody's midnight call for what it was, a desperate, last-ditch effort to keep her in his orbit. And she was done. She told him point blank that she wasn't going to carry his grief anymore, that he could figure that out on his own. And fans, they can't get enough of it. They're flooding comment sections and social media threads with applause for Meri's refusal to let Kody twist her heart one more time. They're calling her a survivor, a fighter, and the ultimate example of what it means to finally say enough. Because this isn't just Meri's story anymore, it's a story so many women know all too well. The cycle of narcissistic abuse is brutal, and Kody has played every card in the deck. He's used guilt, shame, and twisted versions of love to keep Meri tied to him, and every time she's tried to break free, he's found some new way to reel her back in. But this midnight grief call, it was the final straw. Meri's refusal wasn't just a rejection of Kody's manipulative tactics, it was a declaration that she's done playing the role of the loyal wife who carries the burden of his failures. And maybe that's why this moment resonates so deeply with fans, because it's not just a story of one woman finally saying no, it's a story about reclaiming your power when someone else has tried to steal it for years. Kody might still be stuck in his twisted games, but Meri's not playing anymore. She's moved on, and she's taking her strength with her. And that's the part of the story that fans can't stop talking about. Of course, what's so striking about this midnight call is the way it lays bare the twisted reality of Kody's relationships. This is a man who has spent years telling the world that Meri was the problem, that she was clingy, manipulative, even dangerous. He's painted her as the cautionary tale of the entire sister wives saga, someone who just couldn't let go. But when the cameras stop rolling and the lights go down, he's the one sneaking back into her life, whispering about heartbreak and loss like none of those insults ever left his lips. It's the ultimate gaslight move, and fans see right through it. Meri's response in that moment was everything. She didn't let herself get sucked back into Kody's warped reality. She didn't let herself be the villain in his story anymore. Instead, she took his grief and handed it right back to him. She told him he could deal with it on his own, that she wasn't about to shoulder the weight of his guilt after everything he's done. And you could almost hear the collective cheer from fans who've watched her suffer in silence for far too long. Because this wasn't just about Kody's midnight call, it was about Meri reclaiming her voice and her boundaries. For Meri, this was the final test. Could she hold the line even when Kody came at her with all his old tricks? Could she see through the tears and the whispered regrets to the truth underneath? Another attempt to keep her under his thumb? The answer was a resounding yes. And in that moment, Meri proved that she's not the same woman who spent decades trying to earn Kody's love. She's someone who's finally seen the cycle for what it is and refuses to play the game anymore. And that's why fans are calling this Meri's biggest power move yet, because it's not just about walking away, it's about standing up to the person who made you doubt yourself for years and saying, no more. Kody's midnight call might have been one of the most dramatic moments of the season, but Meri's refusal to let it pull her back in, that's the moment fans will remember. And it's the moment that proves she's stronger, wiser, and ready to finally live her life on her own terms. The deeper you dig into this midnight call, the clearer it becomes that Kody was never really grieving the marriage. He was grieving the loss of control. Meri had been his most loyal partner, the one who stuck by him through every messy chapter of his life. And for Kody, loyalty meant he could count on her to be there, no matter how badly he treated her. But once Meri finally stepped away, it rattled him in a way he couldn't hide. That's what made him pick up the phone in the middle of the night and tell her he was still grieving. It wasn't about love. It was about the fact that she wasn't playing the part anymore. Meri's refusal to let him back in during that call was a turning point that fans had been hoping for. It was the culmination of years of therapy, self-reflection, and finally understanding that Kody's idea of love had always been conditional, built on her pain and his power. It was about Meri refusing to let him treat her like a revolving door for his ego, because if there's one thing that narcissists hate, it's losing their supply. And Meri cutting him off completely meant Kody had to face the truth. He no longer had the power to pull her strings. And fans are here for it. They're sharing their own stories of manipulative exes and toxic partners, flooding the comment sections with messages of solidarity and sisterhood. Because Meri's story is bigger than just reality TV drama, it's a mirror for anyone who's ever been caught in the same cycle. When you're dealing with someone who only comes around when they feel you slipping away, it's not about heartbreak or closure. It's about control. And for Meri to see that in Kody's late-night grief call, that's the kind of growth that deserves a standing ovation. So while Kody might be stuck in his own head, trying to figure out how to reel Meri back in, Meri's making it clear she's not going back, no matter what sweet words he thinks might work. She's finally free, and fans are celebrating every second of it. Because for the first time in decades, Meri's story isn't about Kody anymore. It's about her. And you know what's even more fascinating? The way Meri's final refusal has shifted the entire tone of the Sister Wives saga. Fans who've watched this show from the very beginning remember how Meri was once the rock of Kody's plural family, his first wife, the one who paved the way for all the others. She gave up so much of herself in the name of family and faith, only to be treated like an afterthought when Kody found someone new to worship him. It's heartbreaking to think how long she carried that burden, but it's also what makes this moment so powerful. Because this midnight call isn't just Kody's grief, it's his realization that he lost the one person who never stopped trying to make things work. And let's be honest, Kody can say whatever he wants about Meri betraying him or not being good enough. But the real betrayal was his. Fans have been pointing this out for years. Kody expected Meri to swallow her pain, to be grateful for scraps of affection, and to never question the double standards he lived by. He wanted her to accept that he could take on new wives and chase his own happiness. But if she even looked for a friend outside the marriage, she was a monster. The hypocrisy was always there, plain as day. But Meri finally saw it for what it was. And that's what makes her final rejection of Kody's grief so satisfying. Because in that moment, Meri wasn't just rejecting Kody's manipulative midnight call. She was rejecting the entire narrative he built around her for decades. She was saying, I see you, I see what you've done, and I'm not buying it anymore. And that's the moment fans are calling her real comeback. The moment where she stopped letting Kody's words define her and started defining herself. It's why people are rooting for her more than ever, because Meri didn't just survive Kody's mind games, she outgrew them. And Kody, he's left with nothing but his own words to comfort him. Meri's not carrying his grief anymore. And she's definitely not carrying him. Christine and Janelle's perspective on Kody's midnight call has only added more fuel to the fire. Christine has never minced words about Kody's manipulative games, and she's been vocal in her interviews about how he would twist reality to suit his needs. She even said he cried when Meri left, like he was the victim of it all, even though everyone knows he was the one who tore the family apart. And Janelle? She's lived through her own cycles with Kody, walking away only to get pulled back in because he's so good at making you doubt what you know to be true. That's why fans have been connecting the dots between Kody's midnight grief call and the bigger pattern that's been playing out for decades. It's not just about Kody and Meri, it's about a man who's always needed to be the center of everyone's universe, no matter how much damage it caused. And when that center of gravity starts to slip, he'll do anything to pull it back. Christine and Janelle have both said that Kody's world only works if everyone is focused on him. The second they're not, the second they start to see the cracks in his armor, that's when he pulls out the tears and the midnight phone calls. But this time, Meri didn't fall for it. And that's what makes this whole situation so compelling. Because while Kody's trying to rewrite the story as one of heartbreak and loss, the women who know him best are calling it out for what it is. They're saying it's manipulation. They're saying it's control. And Meri's refusal to play along isn't just about her own healing, it's a challenge to Kody's entire narrative. It's proof that the spell he's held over this family for so long is finally breaking. And fans, they're here for every second of it. They're calling it the end of an era, the moment when Kody's once carefully curated image of the devoted family man finally crumbled. Because if Christine and Janelle are saying the same thing Meri's been saying all along, maybe this isn't just Meri's story anymore. Maybe it's the story of how the whole family finally saw through the act. And if that's true, well, Kody's midnight grief call might be the final crack that brings the whole facade down. Meri's transformation since that midnight call has been nothing short of remarkable. If you go back to old footage, you can see the difference in her eyes. Though, way she used to carry the weight of Kody's approval like it was life or death. But now, she's not carrying that burden anymore. She's moving forward with a kind of quiet confidence that fans can't get enough of. There's no more desperation in her voice, no more pleading for Kody to see her worth. She knows it now, and that's what makes her refusal to play along with his grief so powerful. Insiders close to the family say Meri's been leaning hard into self-growth since she left Kody for good. Therapy, travel, new hobbies. She's rebuilding a life that doesn't revolve around a man who never really saw her. And it shows. She's more present, more at peace, and, let's be real, more stunning than ever. Fans can't help but notice how much she's blossomed in the months since that midnight call. Because when you stop living in someone else's shadow, your light can finally shine on its own. And let's not forget, this isn't just about Meri moving on from Kody. It's about Meri reclaiming her story, one that's been overshadowed by Kody's narrative for way too long. Fans are flooding social media with messages like, "She looks so much happier now," and "This is the Meri we always knew was there." They're not just rooting for her, they're inspired by her. Because when you've spent decades tied up in someone else's chaos, it takes real courage to finally break free and build a life that's yours. So while Kody might still be calling Meri's name in the dead of night, she's not answering anymore. She's too busy living her life, making her own choices, and finally feeling like herself again. And honestly, that's the real victory here. Because for the first time in a long time, Meri's not just surviving, she's thriving. And fans can't wait to see what she does next. The final chapter of this saga feels like the perfect exclamation point on a story that's been building for decades. Kody's midnight grief call was his last attempt to keep Meri locked in the past, to make her question her worth and wonder if maybe, just maybe, there was something left to salvage. But Meri's brutal comeback wasn't just a refusal, it was a statement. She's done carrying the burden of his grief, done letting his twisted narrative define her life. And in that single act of self-respect, she gave herself the freedom she'd been denied for so long. Fans have been quick to draw parallels to their own lives, sharing how they've broken free from toxic partners or manipulative family members. Meri's story isn't just another chapter in Sister Wives. It's a roadmap for anyone who's ever felt like they had to keep giving, even when there was nothing left to give. Her journey is about reclaiming your own story, even when the person you're standing up to insists they're the one who's hurt. And that's why this final moment between her and Kody has struck such a chord. Because here's the thing, Kody's grief isn't about Meri. It's about the part of himself he can't let go of, the part that needed her to prop him up and make him feel like a king. But Meri's not that woman anymore. She's not playing the loyal wife in Kody's tragedy. She's not the villain in his tale of heartbreak. She's her own person now, and she's not afraid to say, your grief is yours to carry. And fans, they're here for it. They're calling it the best comeback of the entire show. A moment that proves that even after years of being torn down, you can always find the strength to stand back up. So as Meri moves forward, finally free from the endless cycle of manipulation, Kody is left to sit with the consequences of his own actions. And for fans who've watched this story from the very beginning, that's the real payoff. Because Meri didn't just survive, she rose above. She took back her power, and she made it clear that no midnight call, no tearful apology, is ever going to make her forget just how far she's come. And that's the story fans will be talking about for a long, long time. So tell me, do you think Kody will ever truly let go of Meri? Or is this just the beginning of another twisted chapter? Let me know what you think down below. And if you haven't already, make sure to like, subscribe, and stay tuned. Because the next video on your screen is waiting.